Okay, so Shalom Aleichem and welcome everybody. Welcome to Machan Le'Ra Online Smicha. We're getting ready for Pesach. There is a lot to learn on Pesach, and the halachas of Pesach begin 30 days in advance. There's obviously the halachas of chametz, the halachas of matzah, but today's short shir will be about one detail on the kaira. We know on the kaira we place, our minig is to put 3 matzahs on the bottom, and we put 6 things on the top. We put the zroya, the beya, the zroya, the beya, the karpas, the morer, the chazeres, the charoses, right? And what did I skip? Zroya, beya, morer, chazeres, karpas, and charoses. Okay? So today, I'm going to concentrate on, for every one of the things I mentioned, there are all different types of customs. Beya means egg, so everybody knows that one of the things we have is an egg. But what do people use for the zroya? There's anything from shank bones to neck bones. There's all different customs, and each to himself, how he was brought up. But at least you could learn to understand what the reason for the different customs. And then there's what to use for karpas. Some use onions, some use parsley, some use celery, some use potatoes, whatever. And for each one of them, there is a discussion. What to use for morer? Should you use ground horseradish? Should you use lettuce, romaine lettuce? Right? You see that romaine lettuce is a preferable thing too. Today, I'm actually going to concentrate on the one that we don't even really eat. It's just there for other reasons. And that is charoses. And what the word charoses even means. Where does the word charoses come from? What does it mean? So it all starts in a Mishnah in Masechta Pesachim. The Mishnah in Masechta Pesachim says that after you finish the Haggadah, you finished reading, so the Mishnah says, Heviu lefanov, they would bring to the head of the household, they would bring his table, the vegetables, mitabel mechazeres ad shemagia leparperes hapas. He dips and eats the lettuce before he reaches the course that is secondary in the matzah. Okay, I'm not going to discuss about that part. I'm going to the next part of the Mishnah. This is the Mishnah of Daf Kuf Yud Daled Amud Aleph. Hevi lefon of matzah, chazeres, v'charoises, ushnei tavshilim. Now there is a discussion. What used to be in the times of the Mishnah, what happens today might have changed. Because it looks like from this Mishnah that the kaira, this plate with all the items on the plate, came to you after you read the Haggadah. We actually set the kaira before we start the whole ceremony. We set the kaira and put it on the table. And this is where the Mishnah speaks about, they bring the table that has matzah, chazeres, charoses. Here is the first place where we see there is an item called charoses. And it says, Afal pi she'ein charoses mitzvah. The first opinion is the opinion of the Rabbanon. They hold, yes, charoses is something that should be brought, even though there is no big mitzvah of charoses. Even though dipping maror in charoses is not a mitzvah. But why not have it on the kaira? Rabbi Elazar, but Rabbi Tzadok Omer, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Tzadok says, why are you making charoses so insignificant? He holds mitzvah. So just the fact that we have charoses, before we get to what it is and why we do it, how you make it, let's talk about, is it a mitzvah to have charoses or not? So we have a machlokes atanoim. The chachamim say there's no mitzvah in the charoses. We never eat charoses on its own, like matzah, a maror. But there must be a reason why it's there, right? The Chachamim say there is no mitzvah in the Charoses. Rabbi Elazar but Rab Tzadok says there is a mitzvah in the Charoses. So the Gemara comes on and the Gemara asks, according to the Chachamim, that they say there is no mitzvah in the Charoses, Lama Mevir Noisa. So why bring it? Why is it even in the Kaira? For every other thing we have a reason. You eat matzah because the Yidden left out of Mitzrayim quickly. You eat maror because it's bitter. You have the zroya, you have the bay. Everything has a rhyme and a reason. You're telling me there's no mitzvah of the Charoses, so what's the purpose? Answers the Gemara, Amar Rab Ami. So Rab Ami answers, the reason why we have the Charoses, says Rab Ami, Mishum Kafu, because of this Kafu business. What is Kafu? So I'm going to read you, because of a kappa in the maror. Maror has within it kappa. What is kappa? So there are two interpretations. Either maror is very, very bitter, rough, sharp, and has a very strong string. It has a very strong sting to it. To subdue somehow the sting of the maror, we say dip it into the Charoses. That's one reason, one shot. The Rashbam, others say that the Charoses is not to subdue the bitterness of the maror. It is because the maror, there is a worm that grows in the maror, and we don't want that worm alive. Somehow when you dip the maror into the Charoses, it's done. That worm, that tailas, gets killed. In other words, the actual Charoses itself is completely different than the other things in the Kaira. There is a mitzvah to eat them for a reason. The Charoses is only serving as a protection for the maror. The maror is the mitzvah. According to the Chachamim, there's no mitzvah in eating Charoses. That's why we never sit down and eat the Charoses. It's actually so interesting that when the part that we do with the Charoses is the only thing that we do is we dip the maror into it. For this reason, either to get rid of the sting or to get rid of the worm. But we don't even want it to kill the taste of the maror, because when you eat the maror, you have to taste the bitterness. So that's why when you have Charoses on your kaira and you're dipping in the maror, you're not dipping it in heavy. You're not scooping out a bunch of maror with the maror, a bunch of Charoses with the maror. You dunk it in and you shake it off. Now, there's another reason why you should shake off the Charoses. Eventually, you're going to learn that the Charoses has a little wine to it, a little liquid to it. So when you're going to do kairech with the matzah, we want to make sure there's no liquid. But that's not even the real reason to shake it off. To shake it off is because you don't want to have too much sweet with the maror. So we dip it in for whatever purpose the dipping is made for, to subdue the sting, to get rid of the worm. But at the same time, don't have too much of the Charoses. You want to have, the maror is the mitzvah, the Charoses is just the protection for the mitzvah. Okay? Now that is according to the Chachamim. When Rabbi Elazar Rab Tzadok said it is a mitzvah, what's he thinking? The Chachamim said the Charoses is only there for the maror. But the Rab Tzadok says it is a mitzvah. What mitzvah? What's the mitzvah part of bringing the Charoses and the kaira? So the Gemara has a machlekes between two opinions. Now, based on these two opinions, you'll understand what ingredients you should use to make the Charoses. Rabbi Levi says that the Charoses is zecher l'tapuach. It's to remind you of the apple tree. How does the apple tree come in here on Pesach night? So the answer is, the tapuach is the tree that the Jewish women, which commemorate the apple trees under which the Jewish women in Egypt gave birth without pain, away from the watchful eye of the Egyptian authorities who were intent of killing their children. This wondrous episode we have a whole song in Shir HaShirim, how the Yidden, the children were born away from everybody else under an apple tree. So to commemorate that miracle, we have Charoses. Now we know that the Charoses should have apples in there, because it's meant to commemorate the apple tree. That is one, and that's why it's a mitzvah. We're doing so many things on the night of Pesach as a mitzvah to commemorate things, to remember things. So this turns Charoses into a mitzvah. Rabbi Yochanan says that we have Charoses Zecher Letit. It's a commemoration of the clay, not for the apples, rather the clay. What's the clay have to do with this? What's the tit? With which the Israelites, the Jews, worked in Egypt. So to commemorate our slavery, it's actually, if you think about it, the two opinions are extremes. One is saying Charoses is a commemoration for something very positive, and the other one is saying Charoses is commemoration for something very negative. But Zecher Letit, it's more to remind us about the mud, about the clay, the hard work. So now, now that we upgraded it, that it's not a mitzvah, it is a mitzvah for these two reasons. The halacha actually says the Charoses is a mitzvah with the Rabbanan. But once you know the two reasons, it's either because of the apple tree, or the clay. Now you know what you should use to make Charoses. You need some apples in there, and you need it to look like clay. If you take that in mind, you'll see why we use whatever we use. So the Gemara goes on to say, Amar Abaya. So Abaya says, because of these two reasons, Hilkach tzarich lekahuye v'tzarich l'smuche. Because of, if you're following these two reasons, the makeup of the Charoses has to be made, one must make tart, and one must make it thick. Tart, so it should look like, to remember the apple part, and thick to remember, one must make it tart, for it is a commemoration of the apple tree, and one must make it thick to commemorate the clay. All right. So today's days, our maror anyways doesn't have this worm in there. So all the things that I mentioned that originally it was just to protect the maror don't necessarily apply. And so it must be the other reasons that Abtzadik said. Now, let's start with ground zero. Now that I know what this is supposed to do, what does the word Charoses mean? So there are different opinions in the Rishonim. The Mordechai says Charoses is the same word, the root of the word cheres, clay. Rashi says Charoses means chemetz, like vinegar. The Erzarua says Charoses means when you take a bunch of vegetables and you grind them together. That's in Arabic. In Arabic, it's called Charoses. So that's where the word comes from. Now, why are we suddenly, according to the original opinions, that it's only to protect the maror? Why are we only doing this when you eat maror on Pesach, especially when it's a mitzvah? You don't think any harm is going to happen while you do a mitzvah. For those who eat the horseradish throughout the year, doesn't say, hey, be careful of the horseradish, dip it into Charoses. So this is a discussion for itself. It could be specifically while you're doing the mitzvah, even though Hashem guarantees us nobody gets hurt from doing the mitzvahs, but the Yetzer Hara puts in more effort to stop you. So as much as you should be able to be protected, we have to protect yourself. So as mentioned before, because there's a big machlekes if Charoses is even a mitzvah or not, is it a freestanding mitzvah or is it just to protect the Charoses, to protect the maror? That's why for matzah there's a bracha that you make. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam al achilas matzah. For maror there's a bracha to make. But when you dip your maror into the Charoses, there is no specific bracha for the Charoses because there is no mitzvah on the eating of the Charoses. even after we know the zecher, either for the apple trees or for the clay, it's still not a mitzvah to eat it. The other ones you have a mitzvah to eat. So taking everything in consideration that I just said, we do have charosis on the table. We have charosis on the kaira. And the minig is to make the charosis from all different food items that the Jews are compared to. You make it out of figs. I mean, I'm saying that's not our minig, but anything, dates, apples, nuts, but we limit ourselves to just a few of them. Apples, pears, but many people use a lot of things, a lot of ingredients, fruits that the Yidden are compared to. You use that as part of the makeup of charosis. Others go as far as, people who have fruits hanging in the sukkah to beautify the sukkah, they use those fruits, if it's still around and fresh, they'll use that for the charosis. Now, because the charosis doesn't only have to have apples to look like apples, to remember the apple trees, it also has to have the other reasons. So therefore, we make it a little sour. We don't have to use the sweetest apples. And you also have to make it look have a little bitter to commemorate the slavery. Now, the Gemara just said that the charosis should have a combination of the two reasons. So if the halacha becomes that the charosis, you add a little vinegar or wine to it, so it should have the liquid, the mud feeling, the clay feeling, and that will cover all our bases. The question becomes, do you put the wine in the beginning, when you make the charosis and it's tailor-made and you put it on the kaira? Or do you put the charosis in later, you put the wine in later? So and that's actually our minig. The charosis as it's made is more like a thicker batter. And that's how you put it on the kaira. Before you're going to do the job with the charosis, before you're going to dip the maror in the charosis, only then and there you add a little wine to it to soften it up. Because if you're going to make it with wine from the beginning, you won't be able to tell or notice why the wine is in there. The wine, it looks like you made a recipe. You can't tell that you're doing it that zecher l'tit. So that's our custom of how to do it, and what's the rhyme and reason behind the charosis.